Howdy, everyone. Hope everyone's having a good Friday. Time to, watch and review, react to Pikmonwolf's video on Samara. And do check out his video and hit the like button on his channel and check out his stuff. Anyway, let's go see. I know this video is a year old, but I got to applaud how far your channel has come since the videos that you made 3 years before this one, the one about Kai Lang and Jacob Taylor. Anyway, so basically, nice intro, artistic.
Samara is an interesting character, one who I feel isn't underrated, but rather underappreciated. In my experience, there's pretty much a universal consensus on her. She's a pretty good character. Not up there with the greats, but certainly not bad.
I will say she's definitely well written, that one I can give you. As for underappreciated, I'm not sure. I don't exactly appreciate the fact that mercy does not exist in her dictionary.
Everyone likes her, but nobody really adores her.
As for liking her, again, I don't know.
And that's why I think she's underappreciated, even if we all collectively agree that she's good. There are so many nuances and little things about her character and story that make it all come together. But it's a lot tougher to analyze what makes something work as opposed to what makes something fail. Because of that, I see a lot more discussion of her daughter, Morinth, a character with a quarter of the screen time and 10th of the depth of her mother. But hey, a bad character is easier to dissect, so let's start there. Morinth sucks.
And of course, when I say that when you're talking about a character, it's not about the voice actress or even the character itself. You have to go to the website TV Tropes and read all about the difference between the Doyleist and the Watsonian explanations. Because unfortunately, people have a habit of conflating the two and creating confusion. The Watsonian discussion about, the Doyleist, when it comes to Doyleist explanations, you have to remember that Samara, like everyone else of the third game, was written by a completely different team of writers. So any and all retcons to the lore that she established from the words out of her own mouth, you have to blame the writers for that one.
She's a companion, but her character is easier to dissect, so let's start there. Morinth sucks. She's a companion, but is so pointless and flat that we've pretty much collectively agreed that she doesn't count for the purposes of discussing squad mates.
That's part of Mass Effect 3's problem.
She makes Jacob seem like an open book.
If anyone's gonna blame that was for man, oh howdy, am I having trouble collecting my thoughts today and stuttering perhaps. The Mass Effect 2, you can't really blame Mass Effect 2 for the sins of Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 3 was the wasted opportunity to really expand her character, Morinth's character.
But is so pointless and flat that we've pretty much collectively agreed that she doesn't count for the purposes of discussing squad mates. She makes Jacob seem like an open book. There is no diving deep into her character here. To get her in your squad, you have to help her kill Samara. The big thing is that there is absolutely no reason to do this. Samara is loyal to you, no less powerful than Morinth, and most reason to do.
Hold on. Gotta
help her kill Samara. The big thing is.
I gotta wonder, is that pose deliberate? Because it looks kind of deliberate, like she's posing.
That there is absolutely no reason to do this. Samara is loyal to you, no less.
On the contrary, there is a reason to do that. Samara is unfortunately self-righteous to the point of cringe. I didn't like her self-righteousness, which is, again, goes back to what I said earlier. The word mercy and the phrase, extenuating circumstances do not matter to her at all.
Is powerful than Morinth, and most importantly, she's not a serial killing sexual predator. If you make
she is definitely serial killing though.
And most importantly, she's not a serial killing sexual predator. If you make this choice, Morinth pretends to be Samara, and her only reasoning for staying around is that she wants to sleep with Shepard. However, it is absolutely hilarious that you can take her up on that post-game, and it instantly kills you. She is a shallow character that brings very little to the table. And then, in Mass Effect 3, she's relegated to an email and a named banshee. The fact that there was no outcry over a full squad mate being done such a disservice shows how little people cared for her.
The fact that the Banshee is named, I have to wonder if Shepard actually recognizes her. And if not, well, then how does he know that this is Morinth? And if he does, I wonder why he doesn't say anything.
Now, this may be a controversial take, but I don't think she's a case of missed potential. Let's say that I could hit a button and suddenly Morinth is a properly fleshed out character with nuance and depth. Even if it would magically take 0 resources away from the rest of the game, I don't think I'd press it. Because if you gave Morinth that nuance, you would ruin Samara's character arc. The thing about Samara is that her story is a composition of a massive amount of smaller writing choices which all come together into a great character, and even a small adjustment to that formula could wreck it.
Well, wait, how would adding character to Morinth wreck Samara's lore? I mean, granted, killing her off to replace her with Morinth would be a complete disruption of Samara's character growth, but well, keeping her daughter a complete mystery, that doesn't feel. I don't know what word I'm looking for. Anyway.
Let's rewind a bit. What exactly is Samara's story? Mass Effect 2 is a game about building up your team, and once you enter the game's second act, you're given your second batch of recruitment missions consisting of Tali, Thane, and Samara. You know Tali already, and Thane is introduced as an assassin, so you've got a picture in your head of what he's like. But Samara is listed as a Justicar, which seems to be some kind of Asari that fights good. You really have no idea what to expect. And then, as you look for her, the characters who point you in her direction are absolutely terrified of her. I've said in the past that a good exposition dump should be information that it makes sense for the characters to impart, and these dialogues get that exactly right. Since the Justicars are an isolated and ruthless order unique to the Asari, these people are terrified of her presence causing a diplomatic incident, so they are very eager to explain to you, a human, what she does. They rightfully assume you know absolutely nothing about Justicars and are making sure that you are aware of what you're getting into by looking for one. They don't want you to go and get yourself killed by her. They tell you how every decision of
See, this right here, the fact that everybody is collectively terrified of her, well, that, if anything, fuels what I've been saying, that Samara is, in my moral perspective, not much better than her daughter. Because not because she goes out and murders innocent people, mind you, but because she has no qualm about, well, stumping out the lives of someone who may have accidentally committed a crime, or maybe they had a good reason to commit a crime. Like, say, she's the kind of person who would eliminate a vigilante, for example. If a vigilante went out and killed the Joker before Batman could get to him, Batman, with her version of Batman, would basically kill the vigilante because he did an equally evil act of, well, of killing the Joker. Killing is killing, and so it's kind of weird.
absolutely nothing about Justicars and are making sure that you're aware of what you're getting into by looking for one. They don't want you to go and get yourself killed by her. They tell you how every decision a Justicar makes is decided by the code they are bound to. They aren't forced to follow it by any threat of punishment, but rather that their very order exists around this code. To be a Justicar is to follow it without hesitation or exception. The thing is, everything you learn here is about Justicars as an order. They know absolutely nothing about her as a person. You even get this line.
She's been a Justicar longer than 3 of your lifespans. Whoever she was before she swore that oath, that person is dead.
Which I'm going to come back to later. This means that they simultaneously build her up extensively, while also leaving her incredibly mysterious. And this is all done so efficiently that she is still able to appear right at the start of her recruitment mission. The pacing here is phenomenal. This is what I mean about her story being good because of all the small decisions. It's incredibly easy to overlook all these little things when they really were precise, intentional design. Now, let's talk about Justicars real quick. They're a very cool idea, but they're not original. Samara's a paladin, a warrior dedicated to their cause above all else. BioWare took this classic archetype from the fantasy genre and flawlessly integrated it into their science fiction game.
Speaking of which, let me know if you would like to hear out my idea of, well, it's not an original idea, and it's not really necessarily mine, but I did write out a big Well, essay's the wrong word. Basically, it's 7 pages of detail that I mailed over to BioWare, and BioWare told me to go get stuffed, while at the same time, continue sending them my money. But it basically is transporting the Mass Effect universe into a fantasy universe, where all the races share one planet instead of a whole galaxy. There's no space travel. And technologically, nobody's further than medieval.
Classic archetype from the fantasy genre and flawlessly integrated it into their science fiction game. It makes sense. Before Mass Effect, they did Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, and this modern understanding of what a paladin is comes from Dungeons & Dragons. And to contrast her is Morinth. As Samara is a paladin, Morinth is a succubus. She uses her powers to influence the minds of others and seduce them. She gains ecstasy and power from sleeping with people and draining their life force. And even this, they managed to believably convert into a science fiction counterpart.
Weird, because instead of calling her a succubus, everyone I know referred to her as a space vampire. Is that close enough?
Seduce them. She gains ecstasy and power from sleeping with people and draining their life force. And even this, they managed to believably convert into a science fiction counterpart. Though it is certainly soft sci-fi. Mind control was already established as something multiple beings could do in the first game.
I do hate to admit it, but good point, because like Star Wars, like the Force in Star Wars, the biotics and telepathy present in Mass Effect come off very strongly as a form of space magic.
So her ability makes perfect sense in universe. Asari's linking their minds to others is also established in the first game, so if we accept that, it's not a reach to assume that a genetic condition could make it go awry. If these elements of mind control and telepathy were introduced alongside Morinth, it would feel absurd. But because they were introduced in a prior game in ways that felt more grounded, it gave BioWare a foundation to really push it in Mass Effect 2. It works great! This Paladin vs. Succubus story absolutely sticks the landing. Oh man, okay, that was quite a tangent, sorry. Anyways, Samara's introductory cutscene is also great. She comes off as fearsome and ruthless, yet elegant.
Those were my best troops.
Tell me what I need to know, and I will be gone from here. Where did you send her?
You think I'd betray her? She would hurt me in ways you can't imagine.
The name of the ship. Your life hangs on the answer, Lieutenant.
You can kill me, but one of us will take you down, Justicar.
At this point, I'm asking, hey, woman, come on, ease off. Don't threaten her so much. She clearly is scared. Let's try to negotiate. She's a mercenary. Her kind do things for money. Whatever price Morth paid, pay more. I got my hand in Tim's pocket, and Tim's pocket is quite deep.
What was the name of the ship she left on?
Go to hell.
Find peace in the embrace of the goddess.
See, where people see a righteous person killing a criminal, I see an old hag murdering a young girl. And that I don't really like, Basically, if I were in charge of the Titanic, half of the women would have been thrown off the lifeboats because they are way too old, and young men, really young men and boys, should not be forced to pay the price for a woman who's way past her prime to, save her life. Basically, I have a very different, twisted sense of chivalry. I believe the young should survive.
You introduce yourselves and you invite her to join you, but she can't because she's hunting a fugitive. At first, she seems exactly as everyone described her, cold and ruthless. But her actions here actually say a lot about her when you look at them in retrospect.
Oh, and one last thing. I'm under the impression this was all witnessed by Shepard. Why didn't Shepard move a little bit faster? See, I've said in previous videos that one of the few things, I love Mass Effect 2. It's got the best characters, the best dialogue, the best writing. Well, maybe not the best writing. I think Mass Effect 1 has the best writing, the best story. But one of the very few things I despised about the second game is the complete lack of diplomacy. And not just Samara not showing mercy. There's also the fact that I, as Commander Shepard, am not allowed to intervene. Shepard just stands there and watches Samara do this when I should have had the option to, stick my nose in. potentially save a life and get the information without any further unnecessary bloodshed. And before you say I'm a simp for the Asari, I, and I often feel alone in this. I feel like I'm the only one who has not forgotten about the Reapers coming. It's like everyone else has forgotten the big picture. The little picture is getting the team together. I am looking for people to, get ready for the Reapers. We're going to need every person who is alive and breathing and can carry a gun to fight. And, if they're dead, they can't fight. So basically, all the mercenaries that we killed in Mass Effect 2 are soldiers, are troops that we needed against the Reapers. And now we lost them all because the game forced me to kill them instead of trying to be diplomatic.
You introduce yourselves and you invite her to join you, but she can't because she's hunting a fugitive. At first, she seems exactly as everyone described her, cold and ruthless. But her actions here actually say a lot about her when you look at them in retrospect. Detective Anaya is ordered to detain Samara, and Samara indicates that she's going to do exactly as her code tells her. Play along for a day, and then shoot her way out if the cops still try to hold her. This is exactly the kind of thing that everyone feared would happen. She seems to be just as detached and merciless as they said. But then she does this.
I see a way. While I am in custody, you find the name of that ship. Do that and I will join you. Then the code will be satisfied.
And that right there is step number 2 of exactly what I was complaining about earlier. I should be able to call. I mean, how do people do business with the mercenaries? That's one thing I want to know, because every time we come into contact, we go guns blazing immediately. Nobody tries to ask me, hey, what do you need, and would you like to do business? And hey, yeah, I'd like to speak with your boss, and I have a ton of money here, and I would like in exchange for it the name of the ship. There, nobody has to die. But no, the game forces me to slaughter them all. Lots of beautiful blue beauties, and it's a waste of good blood.
A moment ago, you refused to give up your investigation, but now you'll swear to follow me?
If I stay, I will be compelled to kill many innocents to escape incarceration.
Like me.
I may be killed, and my quarry would be...
The key word here, Pikmonwolf, that you have not mentioned is hypocrisy. The Justicar code feels very hypocritical.
You'll swear to follow me?
If I stay, I will be compelled to kill many innocents to escape incarceration.
Like me.
I may be killed, and my quarry would be free to continue murdering. If I come with you and survive your mission, I can resume my investigation. To do that, I need the ship's name to track her to her next hiding place. It is a simple choice.
I think people really overlook this moment. She finds a loophole. She obeys the letter of the code, but very clearly breaks the spirit. One of the very first things we see her do is work around her code. After all that build-up about Justicars, we get a glimpse of Samara the person. And that dichotomy is where a lot of her depth comes from. Samara the Justicar versus Samara the person. Anyways, at this point, Samara goes with Anaya and you go off to kill a bunch of Eclipse Marks. I feel the murder investigation aspect of the story really does not gel with Mass Effect's shoot a bunch of random dudes gameplay, but the mission has Niftu Cal, so overall 12 out of 10.
Fear me!
You get the information to her and she agrees to follow you, swearing an oath that has your orders supersede the code while she's in your service. Which makes sense. Nobody would like a companion that turns their gun on you the second you pick a renegade option. I do appreciate that she makes it clear that she will still kill you afterwards if you behave dishonorably. Though she'll never actually turn against you in the games, the threat of it prevents her oath to you from completely deflating the tension around her merciless code.
And that right there is another problem with Mass Effect 3. The fact that she does not she does not become your enemy. She would make a perfect little boss fight in the monastery mission of the third game if you were, ultra renegade.
Once she's on your ship, you can speak with her as you can every other squad mate. And one thing I find really interesting is that even though she won't tell you about the fugitive she's chasing...
and by the way, it would certainly fit her short-sighted character, because after all, the Reapers are attacking in the third game, but we don't care because we have our personal grudges, and yeah.
Code. Once she's on your ship, you can speak with her as you can every other squad mate. And one thing I find really interesting is that even though she won't tell you about the fugitive she's chasing, she does let you know that it is incredibly personal to her. The easy route here would have been to have it seem like she is completely devoid of emotions and personality at first, and then surprise surprise, it's actually her daughter and she's really a person under there. I don't think this would have been a bad story, but it would have been unremarkable. Instead, it's clear right out the gate that she is a person. She doesn't pretend that she isn't. Once her loyalty mission is available, she asks you for help hunting down Morinth, as she's finally figured out her location. Since she is sworn to you, she can't just go and take care of this herself. She needs you on board. I like how it's not that she asks for your help because she can't handle it herself, but rather it's a matter of favors and oaths. She agreed not to do this until
Basically, she needs bait, but she does not want to force someone to be the bait. She wants someone to volunteer to be the bait of her trap.
handle it herself, but rather it's a matter of favors and oaths. She agreed not to do this until the mission is done, but she's asking for your permission to go and do this now, and for your help since you're already working together. Some other loyalty missions really have a shepherd help, I don't know what to do vibe. There's a lot of great nuances in this cutscene. I like that she only tells you that the fugitive is her daughter at the very end of the conversation as you're starting to leave. It really sells that this is something that she hates talking about, but has to, since you're now properly involved. The acting here is great. It really does feel like she is distressed, but doing everything in her power to maintain her calm and focused demeanor.
I gave up all that I possessed. I own nothing, claim nothing. All my knowledge will die with me. Now my purpose is to destroy my own children.
Maggie Bear
Yeah, well, your knowledge doesn't have to die with you. Just spread it around. As for her possessions, oh man, did she have quite an array of possessions? But you can only see them if you check out her Shadow Broker files.
Will die with me. Now my purpose is to destroy my own children.
Maggie Bear does an awesome job with Samara, not just here, but across the board. She's also Billie Eilish's mother, fun fact. For her loyalty mission, you go to Omega.
Who is that again? I'm sorry, but I don't follow voice actors very well. But yeah, so I presume you're talking about the voice actress for Morinth. So who is she the mother of again, and who is he known for?
She's also Billie Eilish's mother, fun fact. For her loyalty mission, you go to Omega. And rather than the standard shooting gallery, this mission is entirely focused around dialogue. They could have taken the easy path and just had you fight some cult dedicated to Morinth, but again, they do something much more interesting rather than cruising down Easy Street. It's one of my favorite loyalty missions. The opening investigation into Morinth's latest victim does a good job showing how sadistic she is. And then the section in the club, where you need to strut your stuff, is great with a bunch of fun interactions. They really put a lot of work into this single section. You will not see everything here in a single playthrough.
That is one thing I can't stand about that mission. There's just so many things I want to do, but you can only pick and choose 3 of them. 3 out of, what was it, 6 or 7 of them, different interactions. Oh man, and there's at least 4 that I want to do, if I remember correctly. I haven't played in a really long time, still.
And then you meet her, Morinth, and this is the weakest part of the mission. I think it's a bit too easy to get all the right options. You learn all her interests by interacting with items that are all clumped together, and the guy who tells you her favorite band stands right at the entrance of the club. I wish you had to put in more work to get these perfect answers, and if you didn't find them, you have to trust your gut on what to say. In this conversation, Morinth comes across as kind of...
Cringe. There's no other word for it. This makes me cringe. It's embarrassing.
She feels like a try-hard poser instead of an actual punk rebel. And then, once you get to her apartment, she keeps making these laughably on-the-nose ominous comments. Normally I'd say this is just a very poorly written section, but I actually think the clunkiness works. Morinth escaped when she was the Asari equivalent of a young teenager, and she's been a serial killer ever since. For 400 years she's been on the run, seducing and killing tons of people. And she doesn't need to use wits or charisma to get these folks into bed with her. She is straight up able to mind control them. Do you think that a serial killing sex offender who can brainwash people that has been active since they were a teenager would be a well-adjusted person? No!
I have to wonder, this is just personal curiosity, would her mother still be after her, trying to eliminate her, if Morinth spent the last 400 years as sort of a vampire vigilante? As in, she sates her hunger, but instead of going after innocent people, she goes after, criminal scum. Goes after them. And, seduces them and then ends up destroying them mentally, and you get the picture. I wonder if Morinth would still be as determined to eliminate her, or if she wanted to capture her alive. Still, I can't help but feel sorry for them. Imagine going to the doctor for a checkup when you're a teenager, and then he finds that you've got a mutation that you didn't know about, and nor did anybody else because it didn't make itself visible until you came of age. And then next thing you know, you're under arrest, and you're given two choices: prison for life in an incredibly boring and cringe monastery, or be executed. And you're just a teenager. Oh man, what kind of a catch-22 choice is that?
Able to mind control them. Do you think that a serial killing sex offender who can brainwash people that has been active since they were a teenager would be a well-adjusted person? No! They're going to act like a cringy teen because they never matured past that. They're going to make these on-the-nose ominous comments because they know that they can be incredibly overt and still make you dance to their tune. She never matured or developed real people skills because she never had to. She is a self-centered, immature monster. And I really like that her reasoning is straight up bullshit. She gives all kinds of excuses and explanations for what she does, but none of it is the actual truth. She just likes killing. However, would it have been better to give her more depth and make her reasoning understandable?
Absolutely, in my opinion, there.
Would it have been better to give her more depth and make her reasoning understandable? Samara says that her story is tragic, but she's not a sympathetic figure. What if she was? Well, then Samara wouldn't work as well as she does. She tells you right out the gate that the reason she became a Justicar was to hunt down Morinth. But when you actually think about it, that doesn't make any sense. She already had combat experience and could have gotten further training in numerous other ways. It didn't give her more resources, it took them away since she had to surrender her belongings, and it bound her to a strict code. How does any of this actually help her hunt and kill somebody? The thing is, she still loves Morinth. A lot. She makes it clear how...
And hold on, pause. See right there. The code compelled me to save the innocent, and he escaped. I admire how he adapted to use my code against me. She said earlier that she's more than willing to kill innocent people if it meant escaping police custody. So why did she simply not break through and eliminate our Turian mentor, who didn't turn out to be a mentor because he got, spoiler, killed prematurely? That's what I want to know.
The thing is, she still loves Morinth. A lot. She makes it clear how horribly difficult this entire affair is for her. She wanted nothing more than to settle down and live a comfortable life with a normal family. Learning of her daughter's conditions and having it all fall apart was traumatic for her. Samara the person does not have what it takes to stop Morinth, but she felt responsible and couldn't just leave it to the authorities. The fact that the Ardat Yakshi condition is recessive means that Samara had to have passed along those genes. Reasonably, she did absolutely nothing wrong, but technically, she was the cause. It makes sense that she would feel an extreme amount of guilt and responsibility, that she would believe that she has to do something. But how does Samara reconcile the fact that she feels like she needs to do something about Morinth with the fact that she doesn't have it in her to kill her own daughter? Well, if she were to, say, bind herself to a code that dictates her actions, which gives incredibly specific instructions on how to exterminate the exact kind of monster that her daughter became, it would be a lot easier. Samara became a Justicar because the code was exactly what she needed to force her hand, something that would prevent her from hesitating. In her fight with Morinth, she acts incredibly cold and ruthless. She shows significantly less emotion here than she does in the lead-up and aftermath to the confrontation. What is the last thing that Samara says to her daughter before killing her? The last chance she would ever have to express sympathy, love, or regret.
Find peace in the embrace of the goddess.
It's the exact same impersonal send-off that she gave to this unnamed Eclipse Lieutenant. She became a Justicar so that she could disassociate when facing Morinth, so that Samara, the mother who loved her daughters, could go to sleep, while Samara the Justicar takes care of business exactly as her code tells her to.
Except the one problem I have with that little wrap-up is that we just leave her body there to rot, and that doesn't sit right with me. You know, Samara, there is one particular fanfiction story that really stuck with me because it has Samara. She stands off to the side while Shepard kills Morinth in a giant blood rage that involves biotics, and the power known as Reeve, badly injuring Morinth, and Samara basically finishes her off, and in a very tear-wrenching way. It's a very sad scene. And then she contacts the local acolytes to the Temple of Athame to come and collect the body and cremate it. That, in my opinion, is how the little send-off should have been. She's still a mom who loves her daughter, but now that her daughter is dead, because she, like you just said, she had to suppress her her motherly role and put on the Justicar mask in order to do what she did. But now that the deed is done, may as well dispose of the body in a nice way.
Lieutenant. She became a Justicar so that she could disassociate when facing Morinth, so that Samara, the mother who loved her daughters, could go to sleep, while Samara the Justicar takes care of business exactly as her code tells her to. This is why she's so willing to push the code aside when you meet her. She's only so invested in being a Justicar. She didn't become one because she wanted to be a galaxy-traveling hero. She became one because it would apply pressure in a very specific spot. She of course can't break the code though. If she ever actually disobeyed, then the dam would burst and she would be tempted to break it again for her daughter. She cares little for the spirit, but desperately needs the letter. This is why I'm not convinced that adding nuance to Morinth is the right call. If she wasn't such a monster, if she was redeemable, then Samara's actions would make a lot less sense.
Well, earlier, and I don't mean the one before that. I don't mean the one before this. I mean the time you brought it up two sessions ago. You talked about expanding her character, not redeeming her character, just expanding it. And that's what I was talking about. Like, I didn't say that maybe she could be redeemed. And I'm not talking about the vigilante moment. I'm talking about earlier. I'd love to have known more about her backstory and know more about her childhood, her life story, and what her plans are for the future. And of course, it would have been nice to meet her as a person in the third game, but that all got squandered.
If she was redeemable, then Samara's actions would make a lot less sense. It would be bizarre for her to take the path where she forces herself to kill her daughter when she would absolutely prefer that Morinth be saved. You could change her reasoning for becoming a Justicar, but that's the tentpole of her entire character. She'd basically just be somebody else at that point. Morinth is evil. Samara's loyalty mission makes that clear, and the game makes it clear as well if you recruit her. She doesn't show remorse or take responsibility. She makes excuses and manipulates you in the hopes of seducing and killing you. The fact that recruiting her is so unrewarding works because it's the game going, yeah, you made the wrong call. Morinth really is that bad.
Well, the one thing, like you speak truth, and you speak wisely. However, the one tiny thing I have, the only one tiny problem I have with the post game session where you go and meld with her, is that there is no option to perform a renegade interrupt. I can't imagine a paragon interrupt at all, but there should have been a renegade interrupt where you stop her melding. You turn her body around and breaking off the mental connection and say, hey, let's do this casually without the melding, if you know what I mean. Because that should have been an option. After all, PB, some people would say that it's not possible for an Asari to get intimate without initiating a meld. Well, the retcon presented in Andromeda, some would argue that it's not a retcon, but it definitely invalidates the claim that an Asari cannot get intimate without initiating a meld.
Responsibility, she makes excuses and manipulates you in the hopes of seducing and killing you. The fact that recruiting her is so unrewarding works because it's the game going, yeah, you made the wrong call. Morinth really is that bad. It hammers home that Samara's daughter is the bad guy. Duh. Though, I will say that I liked when she did this.
But don't forget that this is a role-playing game, and role-playing games are for escapism, so the game going out of its way to punish you feels unwelcome.
Call, Morinth really is that bad. It hammers home that Samara's daughter is the bad guy. Duh. Though, I will say that I liked when she did this.
Look into my eyes and tell me you'll
Oh, hardy har har. You get us every time with that. Although I admit, how do you do that? Where do you find the AI voice and and have it dub over the scripted area. Please tell me. Tell me in the comments below or contact me some other way. And the one thing I don't like about this particular part of of Samara's loyalty mission is that there's no way to fail. Like, granted, you might scare her away back at the bar, but now that you've got her in your apartment, you're not allowed to basically let Morinth win in her brainwashing thing. Samara will always walk in the nick of time and stop you.
Subscribe. Tell me you like and
And if you fight against her mental control, Samara, well, will still come in, and it changes absolutely nothing, basically, other than you can resist a bit, but you'll still be vulnerable, or you will almost be snuffed out, and Samara will still interrupt in the nick of time. It changes nothing.
comment anything I want.
Anyways, the Justicar code is quite comparable to something from another BioWare game, Dragon Age's Qun. It is a strict set of tenets that all Qunari follow. It defines how they live their life.
However, the Qun got retconned to death in Inquisition, and it definitely got retconned again in Dreadwolf, otherwise known as Veilguard.
Justicar code is quite comparable to something from another BioWare game, Dragon Age's Qun. It is a strict set of tenets that all Qunari follow. It defines how they live their life, how their society works, gender roles, everything. The Qunari are a very interesting group, but generally speaking, they're antagonists. While you could debate on if they're villains, the Qun and its guidance are something that get in your way.
You could make a real case that they're not full villains, only antagonists. Yeah. Still, I don't like how Sten. I only played the first Dragon Age game, and I only read and watched clips of the sequels. I didn't like how they retconned Sten. I really liked Sten and him having no horns. But now that they all look horny, now that they all look like basically big devils, I don't know. Don't really like it.
Even in Dragon Age Origins, where the only Qunari you meet is a companion, the Qun is why he was driven to kill innocent people. The Qun is cruel, spirit-crushing, and dangerous. So it's really interesting to see something so similar be beneficial in Mass Effect. It gives Samara the purpose and drive to stop a person who needed to be put down. This perspective would shift immensely if Morinth was redeemable. Overall, Samara is content. She does not regret following her code, and it doesn't snuff out her personality the way the Qun does.
But, what would you say about expanding her character in any way whatsoever? You know, like even serial killers have their life stories to tell, and well, let's hear it out. You know, just because a character is more fleshed out does not mean they're redeemable.
Not regret following her code, and it doesn't snuff out her personality the way the Qun does. She still has her opinions, her likes and dislikes, things she finds entertaining. The Justicar code is overall good for her, until she comes to a complete impasse with it in Mass Effect 3. In Mass Effect 2, Samara mentions that Ardat Yakshi are required to live in a secluded monastery to prevent them from, well, doing exactly what Morinth did. In Mass Effect 3, you go to that monastery and run into Samara. This mission is the introduction of the Banshee enemy, which are terrifying from both a design and gameplay perspective. There's a few retcons here. In Mass Effect 2, it's implied that this monastery is on Thessia, but in 3, it's on Lessus. That barely matters, though.
It's also basically said that there were only 3 Ardat Yakshi, and now there's thousands of them. Oh, and by the way, you can also there is unique dialogue in the Leviathan DLC, because you can encounter Banshees for the first time there as well, and it kicks in some unique dialogue. So, let me know your opinion about that, please.
There's a few retcons here. In Mass Effect 2, it's implied that this monastery is on Thessia, but in 3, it's on Lessus. That barely matters, though. The big retcon is... There's a few retcons here. In Mass Effect 2, it's implied that this
escape from Thessia. Okay, I was under the impression that she was just held on a special jail or at the hospital or something. And I'm under the impression that she did criminal mischief before she ever found out about her condition by pretending to be her mom. Like, she would go to the supermarket and buy things with her mother's credit, pretending to be her. I don't know.
Monastery is on Thessia, but in 3, it's on Lessus. That barely matters, though. The big retcon is the amount of Ardat Yakshi.
Oh, sorry, I spoke ahead. I shouldn't have done that. Sorry.
That barely matters though. The big retcon is the amount of Arakashi. In 2, Samara states that there are only 3 in existence, her daughters. But in Mass Effect 3, there's a bunch. And don't try and say, oh, well in 2 she says she only knows of 3. No, she knew about the monastery. This is a retcon. But I think it's for the best. Frankly, the idea that there's only 3 in the galaxy and they are all her children is stupid. They could have easily made...
Well, to be fair, Mass Effect 3, Mass Effect 1 and 2 made it clear that that a pureblood pairing is highly taboo in their culture, in their society. It happens rarely, but it does happen, and Mass Effect 2 made it kind of silly about the fact that Samara is a pureblood, just like Liara is a pureblood. So both of your companions are purebloods, and that honestly feels kind of far-fetched if they are supposed to be as rare as they say they are. And Mass Effect 3, unfortunately, really takes a dump on the lore by, greatly increasing the number of pureblood pairings. That, and of course, they completely reverse the human beneficiaries, shall we say, of meeting the Asari. Let me know if you don't know what I mean. If you don't know what I mean, let me know. Let's see. Oh, and don't forget to add timestamps to your comments.
The galaxy and they are all her children is stupid. They could have easily made this work by letting you acknowledge it in Mass Effect 3 and having Samara go, yeah, sorry, I lied. Like I said, they were a big secret, so I downplayed their existence. But overall, I think this is a prime example of a good retcon. Changing a minor detail that was stupid so you can do something more interesting. Anyways, it's here that Samara really...
I would be inclined to agree that it is a good retcon, but the problem with retcons, even if they are the rare good retcons, is that they are still retcons. The original statement that was true earlier is now a complete lie, and so when we rewatch or replay the story, we're basically going over the same lie again, and this time we know it's a lie, and I don't like it when a character who is supposed to be truthful is telling a lie now because, well, it got converted into a lie by the retcon. That is one of countless reasons why I absolutely despise Legend of Korra, because it retcons a lot of the cool lore, and not in a good way. It retcons a lot of the cool lore that was established by the original show, by the masterpiece Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I think this is a prime example of a good retcon. Changing a minor detail that was stupid so you can do something more interesting. Anyways, it's here that Samara really gets into conflict with her code. She comes to the monastery to save her daughters after it was set upon by Reapers. However, the reason that you go is to destroy it as a favor to Asari High Command. Even if you're playing as a Paragon Shepherd, your goal is to destroy the place, since by the time you get there, it's a lost cause filled with these things. But Samara refuses to let that happen until she finds her daughters. She claims it's because of the code, but we know for a fact that that is not the real reason.
And here's another thing. This opens up another can of worms. There is several... let me start over. There are several squad mates from the previous game that have no reason to not rejoin you as squad members for the third game, and Samara is one of them. This right here should have been the new recruitment mission for Samara. We helped her out, now we're helping her out again. Now she's got nothing else to do because her daughter is safe, and her last daughter is safe. And so, hey, don't just hang around the Citadel with Zaid. Come join me again.
In this mission, you're acting as the pragmatic force of destruction, while Samara is trying to save people she cares about. You meet her daughter Falaire, who pleads with you to save her sister Rila. She rushes ahead to the Great Hall where Rila was taken, and conveniently, where the explosives you're after are located. So it's a matter of fighting your way to the heart of the monastery.
And if you're a biotic and both of your squad mates are biotics, you're sadly not allowed to copy what you saw those two do. You gotta go the long way.
Rila, however, has already begun the process of turning into a banshee, and thus is beyond saving. In a moment of lucidity, she tells you to go and activates the explosives herself.
By the way, back to what you were talking about retcons and how that was a good retcon in order to create more banshees. See, that right there is one thing that I don't like. Why should they be Arctic Yachi to become Banshees? I think the idea of Banshees should be extended to all Asari, or alternatively, there should have been a secondary form of Reaper Husk that applies to Asari. Because, we have the Husks and Abominations and the Scions and even the Praetorians that are all human-based Husks, whereas we barely meet, one kind of Husk for certain other races, and none at all of the Asari, the non-Arctic Yachi Asari. So that's why I think, the Banshees should have been applied to all Asari.
Taking out the Reaper forces. It's in this ending cutscene back on the balcony where we see Samara the Mother and Samara the Justicar come into conflict. The Code has a clear directive for her. Kill Falere. Where before the Code forcing her to kill her daughter was a blessing, a way for her to accomplish what needed to be done, now it's a problem. She does not want to kill Falere, but she didn't want to kill Morinth either. There is no external force binding her to the Code. If Samara simply let her daughter leave, nobody would punish her. She could simply keep it a secret as she goes back to being a totally dedicated Justicar. The reason she can't do that is that the Code was the only thing that gave her the resolve to kill Morinth. It let her compartmentalize and justify it. It gave her no other option, and it meant that she was able to stop her, once and for all. The part of the Code that she depended on wholeheartedly is now the exact section telling her to execute her innocent child. If she simply refused to follow it, then her entire existence as a Justicar shatters into pieces. She cannot let Falere go without completely and totally accepting responsibility for killing Morinth. It would be moving the blood off of the pages of the Code and onto her hands. So, at this impasse, she goes for the only solution she can see. She's going to take her own life so that she is incapable of enforcing the Code. You can let her go through with it, but there's really no reason to. It benefits absolutely nobody. I think the
And you probably noticed that she's still alive. Her eyes are moving around.
So that she is incapable of enforcing the Code. You can let her go through with
Look at her eyes.
it, but there's really no reason to. It benefits absolutely nobody. I think the fact that she is so ready to pull the trigger, but seems actually shocked that you stop her, hints that she had already accepted that this would need to happen. I think that she realized when she was coming in that this may be the only way for her to spare her daughters. Your presence here was unexpected, so she didn't account for you disarming her. I like how her demeanor immediately shifts. She's at peace as she goes to take her own life, but is instantly very emotional when you don't let her. It's clear that this is immensely difficult for her, and it's her daughter who actually finds a solution.
Falere? I'll stay here. Home. No matter what's become of it.
Except, how are you going to stay there? I mean, unless the Reapers come and evacuate all their forces. I mean, how is she going to be here all by herself? That's what I want to know.
Without a proper monastery, I could have left any time. I don't need a building to honor my own code. And if the Reapers return, they won't take me alive. I promise. Then, the code permits you to stay, as you are.
Remember that line I said I'd come back to, like 20 minutes ago?
Whoever she was before she swore that oath, that person is dead.
Samara needed to push down who she was so that she could handle Morinth. But this scene makes it clear, more than any other, that the person she used to be isn't dead, not by a long shot. This is another instance of Samara following the letter of the code and ignoring the spirit. But now, the matter directly involves her daughter. This is Samara accepting a piece of responsibility, letting her own personhood seep into the matters that she once heavily depersonalized to get through.
And I guess now that you've taught me this, the two different persons in one, there's Samara the person and Samara the Justicar. I guess you could say I want to eliminate just the Justicar without eliminating the person. Because I like the person. I don't like the Justicar, though. Too self-righteous for my taste. Too hypocritical.
It's a small step, but it's one that's very difficult for her. It's growth in a person who's forced themselves to remain stagnant for centuries. I've seen some people say that they don't like this, that Samara should have simply broken her code and that would have been a good conclusion to her arc. But I disagree, for a few reasons. I hate the trope of somebody has been wholly dedicated to something for a huge chunk of their life, but they leave it behind after a relatively
Why did you have to show her at all? Her very first word when she meets you is abomination. Has she looked at herself in the mirror? The only abomination here is she herself. Good gravy. Let's see. If it can work, if the change of heart was brought on by a betrayal or twist they didn't see coming, makes sense for somebody to quickly change their beliefs. Quickly, when they learn that they've been living a lie, something that would work in Samara's story in a way, she always knew what the code was. Well, personally, I would have liked to have seen a redemption arc for Televazir. I really liked Televazir. She was a criminally wasted character in my honest opinion. But anyway.
I disagree, for a few reasons. I hate the trope of somebody has been wholly dedicated to something for a huge chunk of their life, but they leave it behind after a relatively tiny amount of time with the protagonist. It just makes it seem like they put no thought into what they were completely invested in. If Samara broke the code, just like that, it would undercut everything established about her and make her motives way muddier. It would be jumping to the finish line before even making it halfway along the course. I think it's a perfectly written baby step. Samara's story takes place over multiple human lifespans. It makes sense that you only get to see a part of it, a small curve on a larger arc. Her story is not finished, but our involvement in it is. Overall, it's a beautiful tragedy about a woman drowning in guilt and clinging to her code as a life raft. Somebody who has only ever wanted to do right, but needed to depend on ancient teachings to determine what that was. She still appears a couple times after this in Mass Effect 3, with a lot of good scenes in the Citadel DLC, but none of those tie back into her story with her daughter. She is a person who compartmentalizes a lot, so it makes sense that you could spend quite a bit of time with her, and these major aspects of her life just never come up. There's still
Can you imagine Samara the Justicar getting involved in the that mission with Maya and the clone and Cat 6? Oh man, I can totally see the Justicar in her coming out and trying to snuff out the life of poor little Maya. I like Maya. She may be a bitch, but what I hate more about the Citadel DLC is the fact that we are all completely clueless to the obvious treachery. And on a side note, I still have never been able to forgive BioWare for lying about the Citadel DLC. Basically, it was a false advertisement. They said we were going to get to enjoy one last mission with our Mass Effect 2 characters, the ones that the characters that we loved in Mass Effect 2. But we don't. We have the Citadel Arena, but that does not count. And the party is the party, not the mission. Instead, we got Rex, and don't get me wrong, I love having Rex involved, but that's just Rex. Everyone else, though, is still, the Mass Effect 3 squad, half of whom I didn't really like at all, and a couple of other characters that I didn't like at all. So, yeah.
a bunch of other small aspects to her that I think work to support and build on top of her very strong core narrative. However, there's also a few missteps. These are all tiny complaints, nitpicks really, but I just can't help myself. First, what is this outfit? Mass Effect 2 was way too into over-sexualizing its female characters, but at least with Jack and Miranda, it made some sense from a character perspective. This outfit is such a horrible mismatch with her personality. It's not even attractive either.
Where in the code does it say she has to dress modestly? And hey, there's nothing wrong with sexualizing a character, especially when a game does it with both genders. See, after Mass Effect 3, everybody was getting desexualized as long as they were female. Like, take Mortal Kombat 11. The girls are allowed to oogle and ogle at the beautiful, sexy male characters, but not the other way around. The men are not allowed to have their eye candy, but the girls get to keep their eye candy. That's not fair. Either remove all sexualization or let it all stay in. I vote for let it all stay in because, hey, it's called escapism. I don't need reality.
What is this outfit? Mass Effect 2 was way...
I don't need reality in my role-playing games, that is. I'm not talking about realism, of course. I'm not talking about real life. Good gravy, what's wrong with me?
But I just can't help myself. First, what is this outfit? Mass Effect 2 was way too into over-sexualizing its female characters, but at least with Jack and Miranda, it made some sense from a character perspective. This outfit is such a horrible mismatch with her personality. It's not even attractive either. It looks like an unripe strawberry.
I have to agree on that one as well. Yeah, I do have to agree on that regard. It's sexual, but it's not sexy. I don't really like it myself either, I have to admit.
I think a light and sleek design would be fine, but the sluttiness is just stupid. It's also weird that you can't even ask about her bondmate, the other parent to the daughters around which Samara's entire story is built. The Shadowbroker DLC indicates that she is dead, so it'd be one thing if Samara didn't want...
Why would you give away a photo album? I mean, what exactly is the... if you're going to give it to a thrift store or to a charity, what exactly are they going to do with a photo album? So, sculpture of Samara and bondmate. Of course, the fact that the bondmate is not named feels kind of silly. Cracked and some glue marks visible. Memorial sphere. I would have liked to have seen that mug. Then again, I know why she would throw it away, because it has it's got a memory on it, a very hurtful memory. You posing with your children as a happy young family, and now you're on a killing spree to go after one of them. Kind of like the way Prince Zuko burned the family portrait, because he didn't want to be reminded of what he once had.
Want to reopen old wounds?
And a first place trophy, Amateur Skyball League. Would have loved to have seen that.
But it feels like...
You don't see it here, but she gave away a bunch of lingerie as well.
Around which Samara's entire...
Which, by the way, pal, Pikmonwolf, she, it does prove that she does have a bit of a slutty side, even though she's kind of hidden it away for so long.
Even ask about her bondmate, the other parent to the daughters around which Samara's entire story is built. The Shadowbroker DLC indicates that she is dead, so it'd be one thing if Samara did...
Whatever memorial spheres, they don't make them for living people. Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Didn't want to
By the way, what is a birthing creche? What is a creche? I'll have to look that up. Or you can tell me in the comments down below if YouTube allows this video to get any views at all. Please spread my video around and hit the like button and help me get views. My channel needs to grow, and it's like a seedling that can't get any sunlight because YouTube is blocking the sun and pretending like it has no responsibility for that.
Open old wounds, but it feels like the game basically ignores the entire story is built. The Shadowbroker DLC indicates that she is dead, so it'd be one thing if Samara didn't want to reopen old wounds, but it feels like the game basically ignores her existence entirely. We know nothing about her. Okay, this is probably the most annoying thing about Samara overall, the way this specific cutscene is done. Rila says goodbye to Falere and tells you to go. Falere isn't willing to leave her sister, so you drag her with you as enemies begin to pour in. Samara doesn't say goodbye to Rila, and she just runs towards the elevator while you drag Falere. It's just so lazy. I get that it's a lot of work to make distinct cutscenes based on who's alive and who's dead, but come on. They could have so easily replaced Shepard with Samara in this animation.
Very true. Very true.
Last, and absolutely least...
And I don't see your second squad mate there at all. I see Liara, and I know Samara's not your squad mate in this game, so where's the other one? Okay, now everybody absent from this mission.
Scenes based on who's alive and who's dead, but come on. They could have so easily replaced Shepard with Samara.
Why not have both of them dragging her
in this animation?
And if Samara's dead, the figure running away after Liara there would be your other squad mate. Your other squad mate is disarmed and running like a girl. So that's how lazy the cutscene is, even if it's James Vega.
Last and absolutely least, how did Samara get to the Ardakshi Monastery? Well, she took a sky car. Even if we accept that this car is capable of traveling faster than light, since the monastery isn't in the same system as the mass relay, whose car is it? We know that Samara is not allowed to own a car. She travels by hitching rides, says that she can't own anything other than weapons and armor, and in the Shadowbroker files, we see that one of the possessions she surrenders when becoming a Justicar is her sky car!
Maybe she committed Grand Theft Auto. Maybe the family that owned the car, or whoever owned the car, got Reaperized, and she took the car because nobody else owned it.
We know with absolute certainty that she can't own a car. And we know that this isn't her going and borrowing her old one, since it's a different model. How did she get this car? Do we even want to know? Did she kill somebody for speeding and take their ride halfway across the galaxy? Okay, that's enough. Now, let's get to those other great examples of writing and interesting aspects of her character that I have not had a good chance to bring up yet. For example, I like that she's actually quite intelligent. It's very common for Oathbound characters to be portrayed as rather stupid. Hell, most people who have played D&D have had an encounter with a lawful stupid paladin player. It's tough to make a character be both smart and willing to prioritize strict tenets over common sense.
Don't remember the name of that show. The one with the last Viking, the last kingdom. Don't remember. It involves a captured English boy who becomes a Viking, Uhtred of Bebenberg or something like that. But yeah, one of the reasons why I gave up on that show after just a couple of seasons was that the king is a skinny shrimp of a man who absolutely qualifies as this lawful stupid. She definitely puts the lawful stupid in that regard. I couldn't stand that guy. Anyway, but I digress.
Yet Samara hits that sweet spot. She's clever. As I've established, she is willing to outwit the code when it conflicts with what she believes is right. And in the collector base, if you don't suggest using the biotic field, she will. Alongside that, she's also book smart. She researched various races, including humans, extensively as preparation for leaving Asari space. The only other squad mate who's lived a comparable lifespan is Rex, but Samara had the benefit of getting a proper education. I think it's pretty reasonable to say that she is one of the most intelligent squad mates in the series. I also appreciate that despite her story being a guilt-driven tragedy, she isn't edgy. Obviously, she's miserable whenever the whole killing her children thing is a proper education.
Hold on. Unfortunately, I got a message in and interrupted everything.
Who's lived a comparable lifespan is Rex, but Samara had the benefit of getting a proper education.
How do you know Rex didn't get an education? Come on.
I think it's pretty reasonable to say that she is one of the most intelligent squad mates in the series. I also appreciate that despite her story
It's nice to have a colleague to chat with.
being a guilt-driven tragedy, she isn't edgy. Obviously, she's miserable whenever the whole killing her children thing comes up, but generally, she's a rather upbeat character, despite her stoicism. She makes it clear that she likes adventuring and getting into fights. She has a good time telling you about her escapades. Her story about Nihilus is a really great example of this. She looks back on the chase fondly, enjoying the game of cat and mouse that they had, and she respects that he used her code against her to escape her grasp. The Citadel DLC leans into this aspect of her character to great effect. She doesn't get flanderized into a silly goofball or a no-fun grouch. It does a good job capturing the feel of your conversations with her from Mass Effect 2. And speaking of the Citadel DLC, the fact that she speaks at Thane's funeral is a great touch. Thane is somebody who the code would have had her kill under most circumstances, but she didn't look at him as an assassin. She looked at him as a father, one who stepped in and saved his son from a life of crime. It makes sense that as a mother who was unable to do the same...
That reminds me, the people who, whenever I brought up the idea of mercy and extenuating circumstances in Mass Effect 2, everybody and their mother likes to jump down my throat and say, hey, they're criminals, they kill people and yada, yada, yada. I have to counter by pointing out that more than half of your squad in Mass Effect 2 consists of the very same people that you self-righteous people are claiming deserve to die, and yet you have no people against them simply because you like their personalities. Well, here's case in point, Thane. Thane is someone who, like you just pointed out, Pikmon, that Samara herself would be compelled to execute. So there.
From a life of crime. It makes sense that as a mother who was unable to do the same, this would resonate deeply with her. And can I just say how great it is to have a character that has others hype up how deadly and strong they are, make a badass entrance, and then actually be good in the game? Her assault rifle gives her consistent, well-rounded damage, and Reeve functions as a...
And it's stupid how Mass Effect 3 completely took away the fact that Reeve restores your health. It only reduces damage, but doesn't restore your health. Totally stupid. Hated that. Another retcon.
Assault rifle gives her consistent, well-rounded damage, and Reeve functions as a do-everything ability, which her AI is happy to spam. She's genuinely a useful character to have on your team. She isn't Miranda levels of overpowered, but she's good. The character hyped up as a badass is actually a badass! And finally, something I have intentionally avoided mentioning until now, her romance.
Oh no.
It's incredibly unique in that it's a fully fleshed out failure. She's not the only character who Shepard can
It's not fully fleshed out. It's a very contrived failure. Once you have helped her find peace, and she's a very happy character at the end, she's got no reason to object at all. It feels, if anything, a contrived excuse to throw in a little unwelcome realism. Basically, I do agree that there needs to be some realism in these stories, but there also needs to be escapism, especially because this is an RPG. If we wanted realism, we'd go back and live in reality. There needs to be a balance of realism and escapism, and her refusing you feels, in my book, contrived, like it was shoehorned in. And if her heart is too heavy for romance, well then, why not have something casual? Her saying that she doesn't have the energy because she's too old feels, well, contrived as well. If she's nearly 800, fine, but she's only 600. She's young enough to have another kid if she wanted to. But no.
Avoided mentioning until now, her romance. It's incredibly unique in that it's a fully fleshed out failure. She's not the only character who Shepard can try and fail to romance.
And Joker refusing you, also contrived. Mass Effect 3 really threw hetero femshep under the bus. If she wants a man, she's only got 4 male options. We got the cheater, the terminally ill guy, and the boring beta male, and Garrus. And the problem with Garrus is that, suppose she wants to have children of her own, she can't get them from Garrus, sadly. And Joker turning her down, another that feels contrived. James Vega ignoring her, that also, or maybe it was the other way around. I thought, when I first met James, and I didn't mean Jacob, I meant James. When I first saw James, I thought he was created to compensate, but nope, he didn't. He doesn't exist as a romance option, a real romance option.
But it's the only one that has real depth to it. I wouldn't necessarily say that I recommend actually taking this path in a playthrough, since I think it's more satisfying to do one of the proper romances, but it's still a really interesting storyline to analyze. There's actually quite a bit of content here. You can start flirting with her pretty early, and she'll say that she isn't looking for romance, but does appreciate your interest. I really like this. Samara made it clear that what she wanted more than anything was to settle down and start a family, but then it all fell apart in the worst ways possible. It's not that she doesn't want romance, rather, she feels that it's simply incompatible with who she is now. What's also cool is that rather than it being a general, this NPC is attracted to the player character, there's layers to the attraction. She only likes Paragon Shepards. She has absolutely zero interest in a renegade. After she says that she's not interested in a relationship, you can suggest casual sex. She makes it clear that she does find you very attractive, but that's just not her style. Anymore. It would have been easy for her to have a sort of general attraction and give a blanket rejection, but instead there's all this subtle depth. If you're a Paragon and pick the specific dialogue to pursue a romantic relationship, you get a continuation in the Citadel DLC. It's a really sweet scene of Samara giving into guilty pleasure, allowing her to take a moment for herself in this collapsing galaxy. She generally seems unperturbed by the Reaper's arrival.
I'm surprised. People have made extended romance scenes for pretty much all the romance options. I'm surprised there still hasn't been one made for her, or if there has been, please let me know because I don't remember one existing. So, yeah.
In Galaxy. She generally seems unperturbed by the Reaper's arrival. She's not even shaken by banshees, despite the fact that she has the genetics needed.
Small plot hole, funny enough. Banshees disagree on death. They wouldn't leave a corpse. Yeah, that is one thing I don't actually like. I wish they did leave corpses behind. And same thing with earlier on Tuchanka, we find the corpses, the intact corpses of what are they called? The Rachni. Crap, I don't remember what they're called. But yeah, they also disintegrate upon death, and I wish they would leave a body for us to find. Oh, and another thing, the Banshee is still alive when her body starts disintegrating. That last scream of hers is the pain she's feeling of her own power thingies, turning in on her. Well, what if we killed her before those things started turning on her? Then the body should not disintegrate. I don't know.
needed for the Reapers to turn her into one. But here she shows that it is getting to her. I've said before that even if your shepherd doesn't see a specific aspect of a character in a playthrough, the fact that it exists at all shapes how you, the player, look at the character. Samara's romance is a good example of this. It reveals a lot about her even if you don't go down that path in your playthrough. The biggest criticism of this route, and another reason I don't necessarily recommend canonizing it in a playthrough, is that you have to be really pushy to properly romance her. I get the idea. She's got a tough exterior, follows a strict code, and has made it explicitly clear that she does reciprocate your feelings. It's supposed to represent you giving her a push to follow what she wants, rather than what she thinks she's supposed to do.
That unfortunately opens up another can of worms, the whole pushing it part. You don't like being pushy, and I understand that. I don't really like being pushy either, but sometimes pushy is necessary. Not because I myself am pushy by nature, but because of this ugly self-contradiction that the modern young American woman gives. They don't want you to be pushy because if you push, then you're being a harasser. But if you don't push, then she's going to start bitching and complaining about you not being pushy enough because she wants you to be assertive and whatnot. And so I'm wondering, what do you want? Do you want me to be assertive and pushy, or do you want me to leave you alone and leave you disappointed because I'm not being assertive? Make up your mind already. Sheesh. Anyway.
Has made it explicitly clear that she does reciprocate your feelings. It's supposed to represent you giving her a push to follow what she wants, rather than what she thinks she's supposed to do. But she straight up asks you to back off, and you have to ignore it. It's pretty uncomfortable. They didn't really execute this specific piece well, but otherwise, it's genuinely a really compelling story. But hey, that's Samara in a nutshell. Compelling. She has so much care and attention put into her story that it really gets you invested. It takes classic archetypes like paladins and succubi, gives them a sci-fi twist, and uses them brilliantly. Now, this video had a stronger focus on my personal interpretation of the story when compared to my other character analyses. So, if you disagreed with me on any of this, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, folks. Thank you to all my patrons, and an extra special thank you to Audie T, Amy Lech, Ilya Kukushkin, Legitimate Salvage, and Samuel Wagner.
Well, thanks to you too as well. You all have a good day.